Welcome to Behind the Podium, Unveiling the Coach. Problem solvers have problems too. So here at Behind the Podium, I, Jared Cohen, and my co-host Alexander Ellis discuss the struggles, philosophies, demands, and practices of the coach, or said more broadly, health and wellness practitioner. To provide quality coaching is to enhance someone's life in an everlasting and unfolding way. This is not easy and requires a lot of due diligence and self-mastery on the part of the coach to be able to perform. So without further ado, join us as we dig deeper into the depths of the coach's mind. Welcome back, or welcome to Behind the Podium, Unveiling the Coach. I am Jared Cohen with my partner in crime,
Alexander Ellis.
And today we go behind the podium with a coach, weightlifter, aerobics instructor, CrossFitter, business owner, gym owner, pose method running specialist, master coach, yoga tune-up therapy ball user and enthusiast, ice bath dabbler, Wim Hof ambassador, mother, wife, and bulldog lover. Specifically, this guest of ours is a veteran of the fitness strength conditioning world. Currently, she owns and coaches out of BVM CrossFit in Austin, Texas, in addition to RunRx and RunATX. Moreover, this guest of ours can be found coaching CrossFit HQ's Pose Method specialty course. Without further ado, it is mine and Alex's pleasure to welcome Mrs. Valerie Hunt to Behind the Podium.
Thank you. That was great.
Thank you. Seriously, it's a pleasure to get to speak with you and learn a little bit about your path and where your head is at currently with all the stuff that you got going on.
Great.
So I think a nice place to start is just kind of getting some reflection out of you as to why it is you do what you do. So as if owning your own gym and coaching daily classes wasn't enough, you have a lot of additional irons in the fire. And at the essence of all that, we're curious here at Behind the Podium, what is your why when it comes to coaching, particularly within the realm of coaching running?
Well, that's a great question. So I'll go back in time a little bit. So I have my history is I joined a gym when I was 13 years old, and I have stayed in a gym the rest of my life. So I didn't play sports, and I don't have a background in any kind of other athletics. So when I moved to Austin to go to school here, I immediately got a job at Gold's because that's what I do, and started teaching aerobics and training. And because I moved to Austin, it was a very much outdoor culture. And everyone's like, well, now you live in Austin, you got to start running. So I went outside. Yeah. So there I went and I started running. And the first thing I got was a running injury. And the funny part is, by the way, being an aerobics instructor, I had been through a lot of injuries. And this is ironic now, but back then, everyone said, oh, we all have them. So then if everyone's got it, it's okay. So the shin splints were just part of teaching aerobics, right? I mean, that's what everybody had. So when I got into running, at this point, I was not a lot older, but I was at the end of my college days, and I started running and hurting myself. Of course, I went to the shoe store, and they told me I had the wrong shoes on, which initially I was like, oh, good. Yeah. New shoes are fun. And then it didn't cure me. So I bought the shoes, and I had the same pain. And being a kinesiology major, I thought, well, maybe, Valerie, it's you and not your shoe. And so I decided to look into running and the mechanics of running. Because as a strength coach, it's all about form. I mean, it is all about the form of the movement. And even in teaching aerobics, I have every certification. And in every certification, they taught you how to do these movements and teach them. So in my mind, I was like, running is a movement. And everyone thought I was nuts. They were like, there's no movement, you just run. And so I found a book and obviously had the pose method in it. And this is before the internets. So I called the number in the back of the book.
That's awesome.
And and
so great.
And so the same thing. Then, by the way, Romanoff sent me the book and his video, which I memorized, because as an aerobics instructor, it's all about learning moves. And once you can learn the move, you can break down the move, and then you can teach the move. So that's for me what it was about. So I am like the move master, because in the sense of what I did is I memorized all his drills in order to be able to teach this thing called running. And my clients, by the way, were initially wide open, just the fact that they didn't know about running in a sense either. Because especially if you're bringing someone out of the gym outside and you're like, I'm just going to show you this running thing, then they were okay with it. But when I tried to get into the running community, they were very aggressively against me, because I'm not a runner and I'm not an elite runner and I'm not any of these things. And I kept saying, yeah, but we can help people not hurt their knees. And they were like, yeah, they can buy new shoes. So it was a very interesting culture. This was 17 years ago in Austin.
Wow.
And the nice part is, over the years, I've even had runners that have stayed with me, by the way, for 17 years and are still running pain-free. And it's like when you find something that you know works and can help somebody as a coach, that's it, right? Yeah. That's the end all. Like, I want my runners to be able to run and not hurt. And so that's the drive, and that's what I've stayed with all these years. And it's great. I got to actually start working with Romanoff himself in 2004 when he started actually traveling and doing clinics. So we've been together ever since, and we have never seen a change. In all these years together, every runner we work with is suffering the same. And so what that's told me is, in all these years, the shoes, the gadgets, the gimmicks, everything that's out there is still not helping. Right. Because otherwise we would all be fixed, because we've all bought the shoes and we've all bought the gadgets. So the idea then is I have to work on my body and be able to move correctly in order to run. So that's where I am today.
That's awesome. Really interesting to think about, too, how much things have evolved on one end of the spectrum in terms of ease of information and the amount of information, and potentially how much more people are aware of the potential details, but nonetheless still having a lot of the same issues and a lot of the roadblocks.
I have a short little funny about yoga tune-up.
Please.
So I can't remember the year exactly, but it was years ago. It had to be at least a decade. And I'm friendly with Jill Miller's first cousin. And so one day she was at my gym and we were working out, and she said, I have a cousin named Jill Miller, and she does yoga, which we were both laughing because she is probably one of the tightest people you'll ever meet. Besides me. So she said, I'm going to bring a video and these yoga balls. So we're going to do this video with these balls. So here she comes to the gym with a VHS, right? This is back in the day.
It's awesome. And
we literally watched one of Jill's videos and then used the balls. And both of us were laughing because we couldn't do any of the yoga. We're just really tight. And anyway, but the balls were amazing, right? And Jill even said back then she was ahead of her time, right? Because nobody was, and I'm from Austin, right, where Trigger Point was born. So everyone in Austin went through Trigger Point, but I'd actually already been introduced through Jill's yoga balls. And it's just a very cute story, because her cousin, who is an amazing person and has a lot of kids, at the time said, I just wish Jill would get married and have some kids and not worry about this, these yoga balls. And look at today. I mean, it's just amazing, right?
Yeah.
And she was ahead of her time. And so all these years and then when I got into CrossFit, all of a sudden Jill Miller popped back up.
Wow.
And here she is where she is. But it was really funny back then to just show people, like, look, you can roll on this ball. Yeah. And it'll make you feel better. And people were like, that's so strange.
Yeah.
And now you can't imagine not having
a ball.
This ability to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and everywhere I go, I mean, even with new students, they'll be like, oh, well, I roll on XYZ. Like, people understand this idea of, like, self-massage. But it's so interesting to hear that even with running, they're still showing up. Like, there's no progress has been made. People are still like, oh, I'll just go out and run, right? I should know how to do it.
Well, it's you're supposed to be born to run. It's natural, right? So if you don't know how to run, it's you. And I work with kids a lot, and it's hard for the parents because they're like, what's wrong with my kid? Why is my kid not running like everyone else? Yeah. And it's like, well, because he doesn't know how. Right. Let me just show him. Whereas it's not strange. If I said to you, I'm taking my kid for a swimming lesson, you wouldn't even blink.
Right.
I said to you, I'm taking my kid for a running lesson. All of a sudden, they're like, oh, your
what's
kid
wrong
can't
with
run.
him? Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's
and then think about that poor kid, because if you are that kid that cannot run, why would you continue? Why would that even be fun for you? You know, like if I don't know how to run and I'm not good at it and I'm the last one and I'm huffing and puffing back there, then I'm not going to be like, let me keep trying at this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Whereas I teach kids all the time, and once they learn how to fall, which is an incredible feeling, and they feel it much faster than an adult, then they're like, oh, I have an ability that I didn't even know I had. It's like a free superpower.
Yeah.
Right.
It's amazing.
It is amazing.
Is running a skill? Because I feel like Kelly Starrett has talked about it before, where his daughter was not heel striking, and then she went to school, and somewhere in first grade suddenly became a heel striker. Yeah. Do you find that there's a developmental thing, we're sitting more or whatever, or is it really just that people don't learn how to technically run?
So I think, but I think it's two things. One, they don't learn and they mimic. So if that's how you're running and that's how your friends are running or your parents or whoever's running, you're going to try to do that. And of course, unfortunately, it also goes back to the shoe. I don't advocate any one shoe, but if you keep putting people in shoes that are very stiff and they lose the connection with their body to the ground, they can't feel what they're doing. So then they're allowed to do incorrect movement because they don't feel. So when I teach kids, the first thing I do is take their shoes off. And what's very interesting with children, I grew up I'm still barefoot. I'm barefoot. Any chance I can get, my shoes are off. I've been like that my whole life. So I have very strong feet. I have kids that literally don't want to take off their shoes. They don't want to feel the ground. And to me, I'm like, that's wrong. Right. It's grass. Sometimes I run through the field and say, look, there's nothing in the field.
I did it first. It's okay.
Yeah. And, and it's a bummer because, again, they lose. Because if they never feel, then how do they know what they're supposed to feel? So then they're not even running with their feet. See, they're driving their arms or they're moving their body parts and they have no idea what they're actually supposed to be feeling. So how can they? So then they watch somebody and they just try to mimic. So, and I worked with 2 children last weekend, and the dad has been hesitant to come, of course. So now he's this weekend bringing the entire soccer team.
Oh,
because
cool.
he couldn't, which is great, because he couldn't believe that how much they improved in such a short time. And then it was that overwhelming sensation of, oh, it's not really my child. My child is fine. He just didn't understand the movement, and now he does. And look at the benefits. So now let me share this with everybody, right? Because that's the only way it grows, right? So when you teach a yoga tune-up and they put the ball on themselves, and then all of a sudden they feel that retest difference. Wow, right?
Yeah.
So you have to help people. And by the way, so I do these daily videos of the day, right? And I started doing it because when I would teach a seminar and I would leave, they would all say, I don't remember what you said. Or can you show me one more time? And so I started making these little clips, and it's great. It's created this community of people that are like, oh, they still need to take a lesson. The videos aren't enough.
I need a running lesson for sure. Because it's always for me been the one activity that I'm not very good at. And so I'm like, oh, I just won't do it. But in any, just like you're saying, in any other school of thought or movement where you'd be like, well, duh, I need to learn how to do it first, and then I'll enjoy it.
Yeah. You just didn't have the right shoes on.
Of course. And my Garmin wasn't tracking correctly. The belt, it was all wrong.
And that's the other really cool thing, by the way. So I don't run with anything, and I don't race really anymore, but I run with my mind and my body. And when I got into pose, I was like everybody else. What's funny is I have not worn a headset since there was a Walkman. That's how long it's been for me. So cool. I tell people, sometimes I'll even say Walkman, and the people are like, what is that? So my point is that once I understood that running, to really free the body and free the mind needs to connect with the body. So if you are running with a gadget that is telling you things, whether it's music in your head or whether you're looking at the watch, and I'm not, again, please wear a watch if you like it, I'm not saying that, but if you never focus on the running, you're not really running, and you're not doing the stress release you think you are, because in a sense, you're not actually feeling the movement or even thinking of the movement of running. So what's really fun is once people learn what running can be, it's never lost its appeal to me, because every time I run, I can practice a little bit more. And it's all about that development of perception. So it's about feeling the fall and allowing my body to work with nature, to work with gravity, to work with the world, you know? And once you start to get that connection, it's a high on its own, and it starts to feed itself. Like, you actually want to go out and see, could I, and it doesn't matter, by the way, if you're a distance runner, a sprinter, you just like to go around your neighborhood. That's the beautiful part. There's no limit to that thing and or that feeling and that excitement. And that for me is the best, because I love helping. I've got a guy right now, he is 91 years old, and he still runs every weekend a race. And that's all. And it's amazing. He came to me at 85 and wanted to break a 10-minute mile. I tell this story all the time. He ran a 10:47. I taught him how to fall. He ran an 8 something.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah, at 85.
Better than me.
Yeah. Right. And he said to me, oh, it makes so much sense, because you knew at 85, I'm not going to magically like up my VO2 max. You know, I'm going to have to do something development wise to run faster. And so, of course, everybody oohed and awed, which is great. But to me, the best part is that at 91, he still runs every single weekend, because he learned how to.
Right.
You know, freeing. And it's not, so it's ageless, you know, in that sense. And I don't care. He's, you know, we had to fight for him a little bit, because they kept putting him in the 60 and up category. And I said, you know, at 85 or 90, he needs his own category.
Yeah.
Now, 60 seems young, right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, it's just kind of fun to know you can help someone. There's not a point where you cannot work your mind and work your mind with your body, right?
Wow.
Yeah, he's in his own category. Gold medals galore.
Yeah. All the T-shirts he wants.
So would you say then that theoretically just going for a run should not be such a catch-all activity, or at the very least maybe it shouldn't be the kind of default warm-up that most are using with anyone they're working with, if in fact they don't have the skill? Like, where do you how do you draw that line? And, you know, for instance, obviously teaching CrossFit classes, I know it's very common for the class to just say, hey, 400-meter run, right? But no skill has been developed, and it's sort of again this catch-all.
Right. I feel like, especially CrossFit, which, by the way, I'll just say this. I have been coaching running for CrossFit for probably over 10 years, because before there were seminars, or that I taught seminars, like, they've been so open to the idea of pose, which has been amazing. So I've been around CrossFit a lot longer than I've been an affiliate. And initially it was really the I hate running culture. Like, every box you would go to, they would be very proud to tell you that they hated running, right? And I always said it's because you don't understand the movement. And it's also kind of still a pun, like, oh, running's in the wad, right? That whole culture we've created. So I would never let you walk in my gym and just throw on a loaded barbell and say, hey, man, why don't you do 1,500 reps of that deadlift? But we'll tell someone to run a mile. And if you want to talk about load and impact and whatnot, it's 1,500 steps a mile. And so if you're running a 400, you can divide that. So you are actually telling this person to go load your body, go load your joints, go stress yourself. And when you come back, then we'll get started, right? Well, if you never place any importance on that aspect of it, think about that. If everyone ran every day for their warm-up, it accumulates, right? And so when you deal with someone that has an injury, it's always like that one thing I did. They'll say to me, I think it's that one thing I did. And I'm like, no, it's actually what you do repeatedly that shows up in your body, right? These are patterns you create. So if every day or every time I go work out, my warm up is to go for a run, and I never work on the skill, then I'm just going to reinforce. And unfortunately, then what if you come back in and you did twinge something? What if you came back into your coach and you said, you know what, my calf's kind of funky? And maybe the coach would say, hey, man, here's a calf roll. Great. So I'll help you get out of that pain. But if you're not going to help me figure out how I got that, then you're not helping me. So every time I run, I'm just going to roll my calves a lot, which is great, but it's not going to help the problem because you have to keep doing the same thing over and over. So I'm not sure yet, and I hope it changes, but we still have, unfortunately, a lot of coaches that you're supposed to learn how to run. But I guarantee you, if I went to your gym, like even here, wherever you go, you learn how to use the rowing machine, right? Somebody shows you how to use that. They don't just say, go get on the rower. Yeah. So yet at some point there's still, and the work people put into jump roping. Yeah. I mean, wow, right? As a kid, no one showed me the jump rope technique. Yet in CrossFit, it is double unders, single unders, triple unders, whatever unders. And for me, what's really great, I can do a triple, I can do a double, I can do a single because I know how to use the ball of my foot and use muscle elasticity. And if they would put the same kind of thought process into, like, when I teach someone running, it's actually going to make them better at their double unders. It actually will make them better in their lifting technique because they're going to learn how to use elasticity and they're going to learn how to strengthen their feet. And there's so many great benefits that go into all the other movements from the run that I think if the coaches would start to see that, it would help them be more open to it.
Yeah. So following that up, what advice could you give to coaches in terms of being able to more strategically program running into their workouts to better support the formation of new habits versus programming that is supporting the default old habits? Right.
Well, I think two things. One is the reason it's called the pose method is because pose itself is what's called a position, right? And by the way, I told Romanoff years ago, I wish it wasn't pose because no one wants to be a poser, right? But the reality is it's a position. So if as a coach, I teach people the position, and by the way, one of the 10 general skills of CrossFit is balance. Right. And I ask people every seminar I teach, I say, raise your hand if you program balance at your box. And no one does. So I do. Why? Because I deal with a lot of seniors, one, and I teach pose. Right. So part of the fun is how long can you hold your pose? So why you can't put that in your warm-up, right? Nice. Let's do a warm-up. We're going to get into the right position. We're all going to stand here in this pose, and we're going to hold, right? Yeah, and we're going to work on balance. And then as they're holding, by the way, then you can talk about things like while you're in this position, you can try to, create a stable midline, all of the great things that come with the pose. So like as a coach, say you have a hollow rock in your warm-up, right? A lot of us do that. Right. Hollow rock, Supermans. Yeah. So to me, it's the same. It's like a standing hollow rock. And then if I'm standing like this for running, this is really how you should stand for walking and for moving. So you can have these discussions. And then it's as simple as literally doing one skill. So I'm gonna do a balance warm-up, standing in the pose position. Maybe I'll teach them a little like a hop, and how to pull on the up. So you could make it, and it's fun with partners. Like there's so much great, like let's go back to just the idea of the falling concept, using gravity to move my body. One of the best ways you can do that is to hold somebody, help them, let them fall, and then you let them go when it's like this instant whee. Yeah. And when they feel that, then you can say, this is how you need to feel in your run. Well, then when they go running, they can try to feel that. And then they come back from their run and they had purpose to their run, purpose to their movement, right? And they come back and then all of a sudden you're starting to talk about, you can add in cadence, you can add, all the stuff can come in later. But as the coach, they of course should learn first. Right? The coaches should take a class. The coaches should learn so that they can then pass that on to their members. But I think if they would open their minds to a little bit more of the fun of what it can be for the rest of the movements, then they would maybe be more open to trying it.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you're totally right in terms of this missing link of holding positions, particularly in the CrossFit space, because the intention so often is to go fast, there's a lot of dissonance about like staying in one place for too long. And being able to bring that into the mix and also experience that, oh my God, like I'm getting warm and a lot of things are working even when I am holding in place. So totally.
And the feel, go back to the feel, right? And then, I'll just segue into like the breathing, for example. So I've taught belly breathing since I started teaching running. Like it wasn't yoga and it wasn't anything. It was just about, you really should use your diaphragm. And most of us know that as coaches, right? I mean, if you've had any kind of, whatnot. And then now it's like, and then it's funny, like Kevin and I laugh about it, like, ooh, breathing. Now it's a thing.
Yeah.
So cool now.
You can take a breathing class.
Yeah. But the funny part is like, write it, because great if people are actually going to be open to learning, hey, kind of thing. And so every seminar I've taught for years and years, I put their hand on their belly and I have them breathe into their belly. And for kids, I use balloons. And it's just been something I've done because I learned it from a physical therapist who told me I didn't breathe right. And this was probably 15 years ago. And I said to her, what do you mean I don't breathe right?
Yeah.
I'd never had someone say to me, you don't breathe right. I'd never been open to that thought. That wasn't even a thought in my mind. We didn't have the internet.
But we had phone numbers. You can call people out of books.
So she taught me the belly breath. And at the time, I bought balloons. And of course, you know me. Once I learned something and it works, I am sharing to everybody. And so we were all sitting there, all my runners, like with these balloons, like learning how to breathe into our belly and exhale and all this. And initially, it was funny. And now it's just the way you do it, right? And so then it's funny because people want to know, how do I breathe when I run? Right? That becomes a question. How do I breathe when it starts to get hard? How do I breathe? So this is now where I'm segueing in. I'm getting my Wim Hof certification in 2 weeks in California.
Awesome.
And very excited. I met him in Brooklyn. And it's it's another whole side of life because he does breathing and this ice and this cold, and it's been great. And again, it's getting people's mind to open up to there's more. Like you can sit and breathe and it's actually beneficial and you're not wasting your time. Right. You can incorporate it into your day. I mean, it's just been another great add to more movement.
Yeah.
So, and I do all the toys. Like I'm talking to Training Mask right now. I use them a lot. And I told someone, I said, I love bands, I love toys, I love gadgets, but at the heart of it, it's your body and what you can just do with you. And I think that's what drew me to that as well.
Yeah, I like that idea of chasing the feeling that, as a coaches, can we help someone feel something once and then the whole process going forward is just helping them get back to that, or at the very least, because they felt it, now they're more in control and actually motivated to get back to it, just the same way that with an Olympic lift, we know, oh my God, I felt it. It was weightless. Yeah. And so similarly, can I feel weightlessness when I'm running, or can I essentially get to the point where other things feel better or less effortful, and therefore I'm more skilled. So.
Right. And what's funny, like in the environment of CrossFit, for example, like when I started my first job in a weight room, I was 19 years old. And the guy, my supervisor, whatever, he said, if you're not helping someone, then you need to be cleaning equipment. So I went around the gym constantly, can I help you?
Yeah, that's great.
I don't want to clean the equipment.
Yeah.
So, but most of them would say to me, no, what do you know? You're a girl and you're young. There wasn't a lot of women in the weight room when I was growing up. But what's different with CrossFit is everybody wants help, right? And when you do something wrong, everyone tries to help you. Like when you miss a lift, like if you miss a clean, like 5 people will yell out, you bent your elbows, you did this. Like they're all experts. I mean, right? But they're doing it because they saw the error. They've learned it enough. They get it. They can see. And then when someone gets one, the whole room erupts. Like it's exciting, and you ring a bell, and everybody's into it. So we have to find that with running. And the bummer with running, by the way, is they leave you. Like you show them, but then they go running, and they have to come back and say it. I'm not running. We can't all run right next to each other and be like, "You're not bending your knees. You're running on the wrong part of your foot." And so. We have to, the beauty, by the way, of learning the pose and to really learn pose method, that's the real deal, is that you teach it stationary. You only teach it in a very small space, and you can see and you can feel and you can help them get that same high so that when they do go run, they can come back and explain to you what they felt. So you can build that same kind of like you're saying. So then we could all stand there doing a drill or a short run, and the rest of the group can actually see what's going on. And if we would do more of that kind of teaching and learning, then everybody would start building that same great, I think, that feeling.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. Because I was going to say in yoga too, sometimes I catch myself over teaching and telling them, oh, you're going to feel this, you're going to feel that, you're going to feel this. And so with running, you have to empower your students to feel it for themselves. I can't explain it to you when you're, a mile away.
Right. You can call me later or text me. And the other thing, by the way, and so Alex, I know you can probably relate, I'm now doing a lot of online coaching. So I can't be with you, which is very hard as a coach, because I want to touch and feel that you're feeling what I'm wanting you to feel. So here I've switched to online, and everyone's reaching out, unfortunately, with pain. That's the number one I'm getting. Hi, Valerie, my shins, my calves, my feet, my pain. And I want you to fix my pain, because a runner, when they can run, is a very happy individual. And when you take the running away, it's a very, it's a very unhappy individual. So they just want you to fix the pain, which I always say, I will, but it's going to take a little time because you got to this point, right? And so we have to help them both feel like what you do with your teaching, that they can get out of the pain. But then in order to stay out of the pain, here's what you have to do. It's a double, right? So I want you to come to me. I wish you weren't in pain, obviously. But because now we're talking about it online, you have to show the both. Like, here's how good it can feel. So please try to feel this way. But to get there is quite a bit of work.
Yeah. Well, and I think the nice thing too about online education is that they already are a little bit more self-motivated.
Yeah.
And, because sometimes I love my students in person, but I'm like, you just come and use me twice a week and then you don't do anything on your own.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And that's, by the way, as a coach that's moving. So I've had some of my clients for 20 plus years. Wow. So I have one of those, amazing. You can't leave. I'm a Hotel California coaching. There's no leave. But a lot of them are like that. They're so dependent on Valerie, and I'm moving them and I'm correcting. They turn their mind off. Yeah. And when I used to teach aerobics, I don't teach aerobics anymore, but I am bringing it back.
Hell yeah. Why not?
Why not? It's so fun.
Yeah.
But in the aerobics room, you bring them in the aerobics room. It was never about, hey guys, I'm correcting you. Like, I used to teach classes, like kickbox was really hot for a while. I'd have 60 people in my class. And I would yell things out like, how we doing? And everybody go, woo. Okay, right?
Yeah.
At no point, I didn't say, hey, does anyone have any twinges? Or nobody would come to me later and say, we were doing that one kick and I didn't feel this. So we didn't have that same mindset of really wanting to help them move better. It was about making sure in that time frame they moved, right? That was all the aerobics was back then. It's like, I'm going to burn the calories. I'm going to come in. I'm going to work really hard. So the shift is now, like, I want to work really hard, but I want to be able to. And so some of my clients, I say the same thing to them. I'm like, in order for you to keep moving, you have to practice your fall and you have to do your rolling and you have to do it when I'm not right here with you.
Taking that
do your homework, please.
Yes. Yeah. Care about you. Like, it's all for your body, right? And hip hop abs.
Yes.
So going back to this dilemma of the coach in the gym that doesn't get to see their clients or athletes when they go for the run. Are there archetypal strength conditioning movements or movement patterns that all coaches should be assessing more critically to gather intel about how their clients may run?
Yeah. The basic squat, the air squat would be number one. You can just see immediately if somebody can, where they place their body weight. It's a big one. Most of my runners, when they squat, obviously their heels lift right up, right? A lot of calf tightness and mobility.
Oh, yeah,
their knees buckle. Very common with runners. The knees come in, their knees shoot forward, the hips are tight, they bend. I did. My very first overhead squat, I just bent over in two.
Yeah.
Because I had no idea how tight my psoas was or hip flexors. I'd never done a couch stretch in my life. I never stretched ever. Yeah. I mean, I'm one of those people. I run, right? And so then when I got into it, I started stretching when I was 30, when I got into the pose, and realized, wow, I have tight calves. I had no idea. You know why? Because I'd gotten out of the pain. You know, once I was able to run pain-free, I wasn't in pain anymore. So for me, I was like, well, if I'm not in pain, just like everybody else, what I'm good, right? So I'm completely different mindset now, by the way. But for coaches, like the air squat, the single leg, well, that's probably too advanced. Even just a box jump, very light, like a 12-inch or a 10-inch, can tell so much. I listen for the sound their feet make. So if they jump onto a box and you can hear it, then guess what? That's exactly how they run. And if they jump on the box, their knees buckle, very obvious. So most of my runners, by the way, when they first start, they cannot jump the 12-inch box. They cannot. They have 0 ups. And they're incredible runners. Incredible. Like I had a guy, sub 3 hour marathon, and he can't do a box jump. You know, it's not because he physically cannot, but he literally has no elasticity. Why? Because he's never developed it, right? These guys aren't jumping, they're running.
Right.
And there's an understanding, like they've also adapted into this movement pattern that they have. So I always say, give them a box jump, give them an air squat, nothing too technical because they haven't probably been lifting at all. So PVC pipe for a lot of these guys. Actually, funny story with Kelly Starrett. I met him. I took a seminar from him in 2011, and then I won a trip to San Francisco. So I said, I'm going to come visit your box. And he was like, yeah, of course. So I brought a friend of mine who's an elite runner. She's very good. And we get there, and it was deadlifts in the workout. Well, she can't, this was years ago, she couldn't pick up the barbell, the 45-pound barbell. So the guy had to get her a trainer bar. And he said, did you even know you had hamstrings?
Classic.
She couldn't, you know, and by the way, it was a humbling experience for her. We had run there, of course, because we're runners. We ran 7 miles to get there. Had to go 7 miles back after the CrossFit workout. And she kept saying to me, and she was so not embarrassed, that's not the right word, humbling, I guess, that like here she was, you know, she can run a 3:05 marathon. She can beat me in any race. And she's like, and I couldn't pick up a 45-pound deadlift bar, and I couldn't use my hamstrings. So some of these runners should feel that like literally they don't have a connection with these muscles, right? So yeah, deadlift, squat, box jump are my 3 favorites.
What about walking?
Oh, is that yours? Walking. Well, you know there's pose method of walking.
How much?
So I teach walking.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You have to, again, walking is another skill because think about the walking injuries. But if we teach people how to move, I'm sure they're out there.
Oh, yeah.
They're out there. I know people.
So again, and by the way, like walking is also another thing that why are people walking incorrectly? It's not really the walking, it's the movement, right? And it's how they hold their body. It's all position. It goes back to the same thing. Yeah. So if you teach someone how to move using their body weight, all of a sudden, guess what? They're moving better. Old people, when they fall and break their hips, the number one reason why is because they've lost the ability to communicate with their feet and they start to walk with the hip. So they have this weird gait and they can't balance because they are literally walking like Frankenstein. And if you would teach people how to get into their feet and actually walk with the foot and not with the hip, then all of a sudden they're starting to pull, they're using their hamstring. The right muscles will work. As you know, if you are in the right position and you use gravity to move, your muscles already know what to do. So if we can help people understand that in the weight room, you activate the muscle, absolutely. But when you're moving, you allow the muscles to do what they need to do. It's so freeing for that athlete or the walker or whoever it is.
Fascinating.
So we have to teach that. That's a big part of people try to take what they try to like. Also, by the way, we're control enthusiasts, right? So I want to control my movement. I want to control my action. So if I want to walk faster, I do the same thing as in running. I pump those arms and I reach those legs forward. And we know, unfortunately, that doesn't work. And so until they understand that they have to fall, again, we got to discuss this.
Surrender.
No one talks about gravity in movement. And until we actually talk about it and accept it and use it, it's very hard to get people to understand forward motion. or side or any motion really.
Right. So one thing we love to talk about on the show is words and the language coaches are using, and how that language is huge in framing a client's experience about what they're going to do or even feel. And so according to Pose, my understanding is that it's not simply the repetitive act of putting one foot in front of the other. So I'm curious, what then is running, and what are some other assumed truths or colloquialisms about running that you make a point to refine linguistically when you're talking or communicating to clients, so that they're starting to frame what that movement is better?
Right. Well, the first thing we have to explain to people is that if you put one foot in front of the other, you've literally just stopped moving.
Right.
If you're blocking your own movement. So that's a weird way to think about it. If you were on a tightrope, right, balancing on a tightrope, you absolutely should put one foot in front of the other, because you want to stay balanced on that tightrope. Right. Absolutely. However, in running, if I put a foot in front of the other foot, I'm literally stopping my own movement. So the first thing I do with people is I have them just stand in place, and I have them shift their weight forward, and their foot will always come out in front. Mm-hmm. And then I always say to them, what happened to your movement when that happened? And they will say, it stopped. I stopped moving. So then I say, well, you understand why you would never want to put your foot out in front of yourself? Because you're just stopping your movement. That's the first thing you have to develop, is called perception. They have to understand with their mind what it is they're trying to do with their body, right? Yeah. So if you can get them that's the first feel. And they're like, oh. And then you have them run in place. And when they run in place, they never put one foot in front of the other, ever. You can't. It's very awkward. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then we run in place, and we say, you see how in place, every one of you, no one's heel striking. Everyone's on the balls of their feet. Feel that. And everyone's like, oh, that's interesting. And then I say, now start moving forward. And every one of them will put their foot out. And I say, now you see, you just stopped again. So you have to help them see, and you have to help them feel. So then I have them run in place. I hold them a little bit. I let them go, and they start to move, and they start to go, oh, I'm actually moving my body. I'm not moving my feet. It's like Fred Flintstone. Your feet are just staying there, running in place. It's the body that goes forward, like in a car, right? When you drive your car, your tires move with the car. It'd be a bad scene if your tires left the car. So I'm always like, think about your body is the frame, and your feet need to be under that frame to keep that frame moving. So your feet leave, and you're not moving anymore. So it's a very simplistic way to talk about it, but they start to go, oh, this makes a lot more sense, right? And then they would rather run with their feet underneath them, hopefully, than being way out in front. So it's just kind of starting with just that basic conversation, and then they feel it, and then they see it, and then it just starts to become where they can actually visualize themselves doing that, and it starts to make more sense.
Got it. Are there other schools of thought or methodologies for running like that?
Oh yeah.
I don't know if compete's the right word, but that sort of challenge maybe some of the Pose's methods, or and how do you navigate that and specifically help?
Why did I not start the Valerie Hunt running method and stick with Pose?
Well, no, I mean, I understand your loyalty to Pose, but I'm more curious.
By the way, my loyalty is not to Pose.
Yeah.
My loyalty is to moving correctly. Right. And I literally, by the way, when I first learned the Pose, as Romanoff says, it's the Pose. I didn't have there wasn't another running method that I'd heard of, other than, by the way, when I went to the shoe store, and they said to me, when you run, you put your heel out and then you push off. So that's how I was taught at the shoe store. And by the way, when I was in college and I learned this push off method, I didn't doubt the guy, because he was an elite, fastest runner in Austin. He was the elitist of the elite. And I was like, he is teaching me to run. I'm feeling pretty good right now, right? And then I kept hurting myself. And he's like, you just have the wrong shoes on, you know? And I had to finally say, it's not the shoe. So when I did learn about the Pose and all that, I actually went and bought a book on physics, because I never took a I'm a Kines major, kind of a ding dong, just muscles anatomy, So we didn't learn, I didn't learn physics, right? Learn biomechanics. But so Romanoff was like, you don't understand physics. So it's very hard for you as a coach. How are you teaching movement? You don't even understand, right? And I was like, I will understand.
Yes,
I will be I'm getting an A in this. So I bought some books and I've done learning. And by the way, I have read and looked at the other methods. There's a lot of them, I'm not going to name them, whatever.
Right.
But what they don't do and what they still don't talk about is the use of gravity.
Got it.
So here we are 17 years later, okay? And the average running coach will say, and it's great, they're starting to say things like, don't increase your stride, take smaller steps, higher cadence, all of the same things that we've always said. But what they fail to do is to teach the fall. And I'm telling you that once you learn and understand how to fall, you can't go back.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you cannot unlearn something that is just a gravitational pull in the ground. You know what I mean? It's a constant. And I told someone 17 years later, the shoes are different, the whatever is different. Gravity still acts the exact same. And when Romanoff he didn't discover running, right? What he did that was so good is figured out a way to teach people how to learn this skill. He's an aerobics instructor too. He just doesn't say so, Yeah. Like he teaches how to break down the movement and then be able to teach it again. Like to be able to break down running in a little simple way to help people understand the full movement. And I have not yet found anyone else that can do that as well. And again, it goes back to, if you're not willing to discuss that this is happening as a result of gravity and the understanding that the pull is a result, it's a consequence, it's not really what you're doing, then you can't, it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't come off the same. How's that?
Yeah, it's that fundamental principle that really wraps everything together.
Well, did you guys see? So last weekend they tried to break the 2-hour marathon. Yeah. Right? And they didn't do it. They got 2:25. The shoe was wrong. I'm kidding. It's a joke. But in all of the stuff that they studied, right? And all of the things they did for these. And by the way, I mean, this guy is phenomenal. Right. I mean, these guys are insanely good. They've had a whole life of running, and their just physical abilities are amazing. Not to put anything of that down at all. It's just sad to me that this whole thing became about the shoe, right? Nike was going to create this perfect shoe. It's about Nike, So now Adidas is going to make one. Right? Well, no, of course. Yeah. But even the general public is still like, it has to be.
Close.
No one discussed the technique.
Yeah, fascinating.
It was all like, it's just interesting when you watch the conversations or you see how people, and when you can see something one way, and you're looking at it and you're like, wow, like these guys could also benefit from just falling a little bit more. Everybody could. There's not anyone out there that couldn't, but they don't see it, so then they're not going to talk about it, and that's frustrating. Right. I mean, you think of all of the treadmills there are and all of these things they have to measure everything, like stride rate, vertical oscillation, all of these really fancy terms. And I'm like, but if you can't tell someone how to do that, then the data doesn't really mean anything. Right.
So true. So true. That's a great example.
And I think people too are hesitant to take full responsibility for anything. It must be this outside thing. Got to blame that because it's not me. There's nothing wrong with me.
Yeah. I have the right outfit on.
Mm-hmm. Right. I have the compression pants. I should have been fast enough.
Maybe you see this in yoga, like say I teach, I don't know, like a tricep stretch. You put your arm back here, and then you try to get someone to take their other arm and touch their hand, right? I don't know what you call that, but whatever. And people will always say to me, "Oh, I can do my right, but I can't do my left."
Yep.
Like they know it. And then I say, "Well, do you work on it? Like, do you work on your mobility so you can do your left?" And they're like, "No."
Yeah.
Why would I?
It's this finite thing.
Right.
Yeah.
People are so funny.
And the other fear in running, by the way, so this will go with mobility. What if I change something then I'm worse?
Right.
What if I do what you say and I get worse? Because what happens when you learn a new movement?
There's totally a learning curve for sure.
Yeah, you're going to get worse. Yeah. It's going to be worse at first. It has to be. Yeah.
Yeah. None of us came in. like CrossFit, for example, people will say, oh, like, I'm scared to try CrossFit. I'm not good at it. Well, you're never going to be good at it unless you get in the gym and we can teach you. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's the same with running or any of these things that like, if I'm not already good at it, it's just this little, I don't know. It's, when I first started running, I never thought I was going to be good at it. I didn't care about that. I wanted to not hurt, and I wanted to teach people to run and not hurt. It was never about Valerie, because who cares? I just work out all day. It doesn't matter. And and then what started to happen, by the way, is over a time, people kept saying to me, well, we would like to see what you can do, right? Like, if you're going to teach this and you're going to be this master, whatever, I'm not master, but if you're going to be this higher level coach, what can you do? So I did. I raced for a year. I became an athlete, by the way. And what I learned is a couple of things. One is I just like to coach. But I did it, and then I won. Like, I wasn't, Romanov got me. I was an 8:30 pace runner, and he said to me, it's a little embarrassing, so let's get you a little faster, which I don't think it's embarrassing, but anyway. So he taught me, A, that I could run faster, because I really didn't think about it, and B, that I should run faster. Why wouldn't I, right? And it was because I didn't really ever think that I could, right? Yeah. So I changed from an 8:30 runner to a 6:30 runner, not because I increased my VO2, but because I practiced my skill and got better at my skill of falling. So I tell people, like, you have a potential you don't even know. Like, you don't know how fast you can run. You have no idea because you've never tested that. And then I can tell you honestly, like, if we could that's the beauty of the coach. It's like, once you can recognize that you could help someone get better, why would you not want to?
Right.
Wonderful. You have mentioned the fall a lot, and now I'm like super inspired to go out and go running.
Go fall.
But what advice would you give to somebody who hasn't been running at all? I mean, should they go out and run, or how can they fall better?
All right. Well, I'll plug me. So I have a very, very basic program that I sell on my runrx.fit site, and it's called 3-2-1-RUN. And we're going to have a May special, so it's going to be 50% off. So I'll put that up this week.
Nice.
And basically, you get a video analysis plus the 3-2-1-RUN. And what happens is you send me a video, so I get to see you run, and then you get back the learning. And I basically just break down, how to stand and pose, how to fall, how to pull. And that's the way I would do it. But to just get started and to kind of see what Valerie's about in the fall is I've got free 3 places you can go and see all this. And one of them, of course, is on Instagram, RunRx. I can't get all my names right. On YouTube, I'm also RunRx. I'm fighting with Facebook. So Facebook, I'm still RunATX. But these free tips are for you, are for everybody to just start to look at it. Like today, by the way, my last two videos are only falling. So those are 2 places to start. Today, I just put up a great video on just getting on a band, the simplicity. Like, that's what I keep trying to show, is that it doesn't have to be all of this study and thought. It's just real basic. Because once, like you said, you're going to feel it, and then you're like, oh, okay, I feel it. Now let me go recreate it. And then the beauty of it is this is where the coaches can have fun. Because once you understand the movement, so this is what I've done with it. All these things I've come up with, I got the basic knowledge, of course, from Romanov, but then I've added my element, right? My aerobics teacher style. And because I have taught this for so long, and it's like Groundhog's Day. Every time I reteach and I reteach and I reteach, I learn more, like cueing wise and this and that. So I wanted to get that out, and because I want people to try it. I mean, that's the whole hook, right? And so there's not one here's what I found. There's not one right drill. Like, this isn't the one, but this one might be the one for you. So for me, the banded falling works really well for people, and most people have access to a rubber band. But everyone has access to their body. So like the day before, I did just your body. So I try to do that so there's no excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know my dog, she just looks at me like, I wish you would run, Mom. Why don't we run? And I'm like, I don't know how.
And then see, like, you could have, or I don't know what kind of dog you have, but a lot of times I have a boxer and he loves to run. So I'll have a leash that I can put around my waist, and I'll let him pull me from the center. So then I can just Like he can pull me, I'm falling, and I just have to and then I can just pull my feet.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy you said that because I would tie her around my waist, and as you were talking, I was like, well, I don't know if I'll be able to do it right because the dog pulls me, but I'm so excited. I'm so inspired.
Now you want to go find some hills.
Oh yeah, no, we have a few that I avoid.
Well, this has been awesome. We want to be mindful of your time, so we're going to shift into our rapid fire realm of questions.
Okay.
Feel free to be as succinct or long as you want. They'll just be rapid coming from me.
Okay.
Just Jared asks shorter questions.
Yeah, I ask shorter questions, and we'll hit them right back and forth.
Okay.
So first is, what is your biggest coaching pet peeve?
Biggest coaching pet peeve is coaches that try to coach something they're not really sure what they're coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Wonderfully said. As a coach, what gives you the biggest payoff? And then subsequently, what worries you the most?
Oh, well, the biggest payoff is hitting new, I'll say PRs, but getting to the next step, whether it's their lifting or their endurance, and staying out of pain. That's my number one.
Nice. And what worries you the most?
What worries me the most is that they will try to keep going to the next level without taking all the proper steps to get there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite coaching memory?
Wow.
We go deep.
Gosh. Probably I guess I could probably repeat the same coaching memory. My favorite coaching memory is when someone takes a plan I've given them, and maybe the first time I trained someone for a Boston and they actually made it. You know, and that was just kind of that, yes, we did it. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. All right. Lastly, what does it mean to you to practice what you preach?
Oh, that's huge. I feel like as a coach, unless you're actually doing the work that you're asking other people to put in, it's very hard to ask someone else to put that work in themselves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was wonderful.
Thank you.
So very true. Well, you gave us, I mean, in my own selfish desire to learn how to run, I already had you pitch us on all the places you hang out online. Is there anywhere else that people should know where you're hanging out beyond Instagram, YouTube, the internet, Facebook?
I mean, at the gym.
At the gym, yeah.
Austin, come see me, yeah.
I know. Well, actually, I'm so happy you said that about your coaching program, because I was like, okay, I have a Southwest credit. I could fly to Austin. Like, I need to know how to run.
Yeah, well, you guys, where are you?
We are in California.
Southern California.
In LA? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I should come see you. I'm going to be there in 2 weeks.
I know, and I'm going to be out of town. And you're not the first person to say, like, oh, Wim Hof is here. And I'm like,
You know, by the way, it's really funny. Oh, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I met him in Brooklyn.
Uh-huh.
And I got him to do a video with me, you know, like, just because I'm me. And I was like, I really want to meet you and everything. Yeah. And so we've had this introduction. Yeah. And the community was really, really nice. And and this is one of the first seminars I'm going to in years and years that I'm not going to go to further my current subject matter expertise. It's not CrossFit. It's such a different scene.
Yeah.
And so I'm just excited because I feel like I'm going to be able to bring back into I'm hoping, to the running community and also the CrossFit community, how to use this breathing for themselves. Because I think people are excited about it.
But the how.
But he seems like, he's like really out there kind of, personality.
Yeah.
So exciting. Well, I'm excited to see what comes from it too, because I think as coaches, we have to stay excited about what we're learning. And sometimes, I mean, quote unquote, selfish, but not really, because breathing is totally important.
Well, you guys do one. I mean, you've got a breath and bliss and right.
Yeah. Jill teaches it.
It's on my list.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
No, all of this stuff, like as coaches, like how exciting this is to stay on top. And I feel like, I'm sure it's in the entire community, by the way. I'm in my mid 40s, and in Austin, they're calling it the silver tsunami. meaning like the age of the person that wants to stay fit is growing. But they don't want like senior fitness. They want to be regular fit people. And so I feel like all of this is all going to come together. They're going to respect, by the way, things like yoga tune-up because they want to stay moving, right?
Yeah.
And the breathing and all of this. So I feel like we're in a really good place right now where everyone's sharing and getting it all out there.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, and very true. I was just talking last night with a bunch of different healthcare practitioners in my area, and they too were saying, well, most of our clients are over 40. And I was like, yep, this is totally the crew for sure. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. I know I've learned a lot, and I'm literally going to go slap on some sneakers and go learn how to fall. So thank you.
I'm gonna send you my 3, 2, 1, and I want you to do it and let me know what you think.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, no, and I'm also excited that you are going to be online even more so that more people can learn the basic skill of running.
Right.
So it's very exciting.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm excited too.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. Thanks to everyone for listening. If you are enjoying the show, please, we would love it if you'd share it and or leave a review, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Behind the Podium, Unveiling the Coach. If you have enjoyed what you listened to, head over to iTunes and leave us a review. More information on each episode and the podcast in general can be found at behindthepodiumpodcast.com. We'll catch you next time.